I would like to express my gratitude to the past chairs and the cooperation of my team members in every program and initiative that was taken up. Thank you, team, my Lettuce League. I am happy to announce that this year we are celebrating the completion of 20 glorious years of Flow Hyderabad.
One in every 1,000 kids who plays becomes a national level athlete. Out of every 1,000 national champions, one Olympian is made. And out of every 100 Olympians, one medalist is made. They say it proudly, but on the reverse side, if you look at it, everybody who's left out is actually repulsing and going out of the system. So what happens is the entire model is actually throwing people away, whereas we should be integrating people, because the benefit of sport is much beyond medals. And that fundamental issue was something which was very, very critical for me to understand. Physical activity is the only thing which builds neurons, almost to the point where they're saying that if you're not physically active, you're not going to activate your brain cells.
All the best for the Olympics. I know you're all leaving in the middle of the month and the whole nation is looking forward, and all the best. And this is Gopichan, the epitome of honesty, simplicity and humbleness, which I think the next generation should carry those values.
When you are talking about e-commerce and technology and all, those ones, initial stages, it may not require too much of funding. That's fine. But how about manufacturing industry? If you are starting a manufacturing business, initial stages also you need funding. What do you say about that?
Being in an incubator helps you get access to, there'll be different talks happening, different programs, different initiatives, visitors coming in, could be an investor, could be a mentor, could be from a different industry. So I think there's that vibrancy an incubator brings, which we also bring.
The ability to identify an edge or identify a gap in the market. That's where I think women entrepreneurs have an edge.
everyone. On behalf of Chairperson Uma Chigurupati and her committee, I, Honorary Secretary Radhika Agarwal, with great pride and honor, would like to welcome among us our esteemed guests Radhe Jaggi and Sandeep Narayan, respected past chairs and my dear flow friends. India is a culturally rich country and encompasses an immense and intricate tapestry of classical, music, and dance forms. Music and dance are intertwined. In traditional aesthetics, music is often allegorized as the food for the soul. It is rightly said, dance is nature. Listen to your heart. It dances with its own rhythm. Today, we are going to explicate the mysteries of Indian culture by taking you through a journey of classical music and dance. We have amidst us the classical couple, Radhe Jaggi, a Bharatanatyam dancer, and Carnatic classical vocalist Sandeep Narayan. Radhe Jaggi is the daughter of mystic, poet, visionary, and spiritual master Jaggi Vasudev, popularly known as Sadguru. Carnatic musician Sandeep Narayan is known for a style that's rich in classicism, expressions, and improvisation. The couple's classical music and dance performances showcase the height of musical creativity achieved by them through decades of rigorous training and discipline. Let us start this evening by salutation to our national flag. Now, I would like to invite Chairperson Uma Chigurupati to give her welcome address. And members, don't forget to post your questions in the chat box. We will take them at the end of the session.
Namaste. A warm welcome to Srimati Radhe Jaggi, Sri Sandeep Narayan, respected past chairs, invitees, and fellow flow members. I welcome you all to your journey through art. Radhe, her dance is a poem of which each movement is a word. Sandeep, his music is unique, traditional, evolved, sophisticated, and melodious. Before we unravel their journey, let me quickly unravel our chapter's report for this month. I'm very happy that after 3 months of virtual programs, we were able to organize the first physical event for the year 2021-22 with the Drona factor sculpting the Arjunas with badminton player and national coach Mr. Pullala Gopichand. We had to restrict the numbers with a lot of difficulty in order to follow the pandemic regulations. Still, the session was attended by around 100 members. It was very inspirational and motivating to listen to Mr. Gopichand and understand his ability to live and lead a life with values and principles. This year, we have completed 20 glorious years of Flow Hyderabad chapter. On this occasion, a special monogram was unveiled by past President Ms. Pinky Reddy and past Chairperson Ms. Manjula Reddy on the same day. This year, as one of our handlooms and handicrafts initiatives, we are promoting Bidri craft. As a part of it, all our mementos and badges were made in Bidri to encourage this craft and the craftsmen. Badges that were made in this craft were presented to the members of core and executive committees on the same day. Our outreach team has started the second session of distance education program from 14th of July. It's a week-long session and more than 100 girls from Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya schools from Doma, Parigi, Kulkacharla and Gandhed villages have joined in this spoken English class program. On the 29th of July, we are planning to organize a workshop on Canva and Digital D logo designing. I want members to join and hone their creative skills. Today, we are going to listen to the journey of two young and highly accomplished artists who, while excelling in their respective fields, demonstrated how these wonderful art forms can inspire people, even in promoting social causes, here in the name of Kaveri Kali. Before we start the conversation, let us know more about them from Mahati. Over to you, Mahati.
Thank you, Uma. Good evening, everyone. Like Sadhguru once said, dance is an outpouring of the exuberance of one's life energies, and Indian classical music is a sound statement about the profoundness of life. On this note, let me introduce to you two vibrant millennial artists who have excelled in the world of Indian classical music and dance. She is a renowned Bharatanatyam dancer who underwent training under reputed gurus Sri Shijit Krishna, Sri Shijit Nambiyar, Srimati Pushpa Shankar, and many more. She has a post diploma in arts management from Dakshina Chitra, Chennai. She spent the first 2 years of her career performing in over 60 temples across Tamil Nadu. She is currently a performing member of the Spanda Dance Company, directed by Srimati Leela Sampson. She has performed across various countries, including India, namely US, South Korea, Malaysia, and also at prestigious venues such as Cambridge University, House of Commons, Westminster Abbey, and so on. She is a recipient of various prestigious awards, some of which are Natya Ratna from the Trinity Fine Arts, Chennai, in the year 2017, the Rukmini Devi Endowment Award from Sri Krishna Gana Sabha in the year 2016, and so on. Let us welcome Radhe Jaggi. He was born and brought up in LA, California, amidst a family of musicians and music lovers. He underwent training from the revered musicologist Calcutta Sri K.S. Krishnamurti in Chennai, Srimati Sangeeta Kalanidhi, and Sri Sanjay Subramaniam. Upon completing his bachelor's degree in Law and Society from the University of California in 2006, he moved to India to take up music as a full-time career. He performed extensively across the world, including concert tours of Australia, Canada, United States, Germany, England, and so on. He has been honored with many reputed laurels, such as the Government of India's Sangeet Natak Academy Award with the prestigious title Ustad Bismillah Khan Yuva Puraskar in the year 2019, Kala Ratna Award from the Cleveland Tyagaraja Aradhana in the year 2019, the Best Concert and Vocalist Award from the Music Academy Madras for 5 years consecutively, and many such laurels. With that brief, let us welcome Sandeep Narayan. Now, I would like to hand over to our chairperson, Uma Chigrupati, to take the session forward.
Thank you, Mahati. So, welcome once again. So, thank you both for joining. Both of you are amazing artists.
Thanks.
And set very high standards in your respective art forms. So, shall we start with Radhe first? Radhe, you are a graceful dancer and your movements are so elegant. When did you start learning dance? Is this out of your interest or wish of your parents? Can you tell me your journey?
Thank you so much for having us. I started learning dance when I was around 9. I started learning in school, but I was not a very good student. I was definitely not a serious student. It was not ever in my mind that I would ever pursue it. But after I finished 10th standard, I didn't want to go back to school. I didn't want to go back to a regular school. So I kind of spoke to my father, and he also felt, okay, enough formal education. You can do your 11th and 12th exams, but there's no need to go to school. So we were visiting Kalakshetra at that time, and I met Leela Sampson for the first time at that, because she was at that time, she was the head of the institution. And seeing all of these people in dance saris and practicing, and they were all very excited. And actually, I went there on a day when they had exams, and they had invited me to spend half a day with at that point, they were the first year students. And I couldn't believe how relaxed and casual they were about the fact that they had exams. Um, so instantly I was like, okay, I think I can do that.
Not too
So
difficult.
I was there for 4 years. I'm not sure that I really absorbed the best of what Kalakshetra had to offer, but the space is beautiful, and the philosophy of the space is very similar to where I had gone to school. I went to Rishi Valley, which is the Jiddu Krishnamurti school. And then from there to go to Kalakshetra, which was started by Rukmini Devi, and she also had her roots in Theosophical Society. It seems like a very natural transition for me. After I finished my 4 years in Kalakshetra, that's really when I started to love dance, because then I was learning from Leela Sampson, and she has a very interesting way of making dance understandable, and making it accessible for people who maybe have not come from the traditional background of being dancers. So most dancers have been learning dance. You know, people will say, "Oh, I've been learning since I was 3. I've been learning since I was 4. I did my Arangetram when I was 12." And these are relatively common stories among dancers, and that was definitely not my journey. So it was nice for me to build that relationship with my dance as an adult, and I don't know. That's really all I know how to do, and I enjoy doing it, so I stuck with it.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Can I request IT to play a small video, please?
I never liked to go to school when I was young, so I thought, why should I put her through something? When she became 15 and cleared her 10th standard, I took her out of formal education. And then she said, "You're teaching everybody so many things, you're not teaching me anything." I said, "This is all you need to know." And by the time she was 3 years of age, she at least knew 1,000 people by name, whom she considered her friends, definitely not her age, all grown-up people. So the tremendous exposure to people, and I thought I won't send her to school because I never liked to go to school when I was young. So I never treated her as a child, first thing. From the age of 2, from the time she started speaking, I always treated her as an equal, as an adult. I put whatever building a foundation, it's run by volunteers. Only if you see everything just the way it is, you can navigate through life effortlessly. This is all the ability you need to give to your child. So I always treated as an adult, never trying to place myself above her. This is the fundamental management I did, that she need not look up to anybody, nor look down to anybody. Just look at level, at everything the way it is.
So, Radhe, you have to accept that your childhood is very different, isn't it? As shown in the video. Earlier also, I heard from your father in one of the interviews. As a months-old baby itself, he had started traveling thousands of kilometers in the car, meeting new people, staying in different places, and then going to a boarding school. Can you explain? Did you remember anything about your childhood? And of course, not 2 or 3, maybe a little later.
No, I actually do remember, even when I was 2.5. I remember a lot of people's homes that I've been to. I may not remember the people very clearly, but I remember certain spaces, and I remember being fed in a certain space or being bathed in a certain space. I definitely had an interesting childhood, but I did not realize that it was different or interesting until I was at least 18 or 19 years old. I really just thought everybody grew up that way. I grew up in many people's homes. Um, I almost never came back to the same house for more than a week or 2 weeks, because my father would be traveling, and wherever I went, they welcomed me as part of the family. I was never a guest in anybody's house, which was something very wonderful that the adults around me ensured that I had. And so I didn't really distinguish from my house from somebody else's house. And even, I mean, when we talk about things and when we were talking about my wedding and everything, I said, but we have to invite everybody because they're the ones that brought me up, you know, not even my immediate family, because my immediate family outside of my father, they're all based in Mysore. And yes, I was close to them and I spent a lot of time with them. But I spent more time with people who were helping build the foundation. I spent more time with the people who took, you know, the people who took brahmacharya and the ashram. They were my parents, really. I just thought everybody grew up with like a few hundred people around them. I didn't really notice that you know, you had a family of 2 or 3 people, and those are the ones that you consider family. My family is many thousands of people large. Nobody ever treated me like a child. Actually, like, I mean, in the video, my father says that he never treated me like a child. But most people in the ashram didn't treat me like a child. Very, very few people, you know, oh, so sweet, and pinched my cheeks and did this. And like, very few people did that. Almost everybody spoke to me as an adult. And I think that's gotten me in a lot of trouble because as I got older, I treated everybody else like they were my equals. So obviously my teachers were not very happy with that attitude or tone of voice. But that's just how it has always been. And even today, I feel like that is how I am with people. Even if they're younger than me, I hardly ever speak to somebody younger than me thinking that they're younger than me. And I hardly ever speak to anybody who's older than me thinking they're older than me. So it works both ways. Sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes I think people get a little get a little hurt that I'm not treating them in the way that they expect. It was a great childhood. I traveled everywhere, and the foundation was very, very small, you know, and it was just starting out at that time. It was just my father and my mother and maybe another 20 people or so who had started doing all the work for the foundation at that time. So we traveled everywhere by car, all over India by car, and then slowly as the foundation got bigger, internationally also we traveled. We never really went on holiday as an event by itself. It was always, there was an event somewhere, so we went there and then we saw everything in that city. But we never really planned a holiday and went to a place just to see the place. And that somehow has become our lifestyle. In fact, even us, because we're artists and because we travel for shows, we don't really plan separate vacations ever. It's always, oh, you're going here for a performance, so I'll finish this and then I'll meet you there because that's an interesting place that you're performing at. Which has been very nice because what we consider work is very seamlessly a part of everything else in our lives.
Wonderful, considering everyone as your family and seeing holiday in work and work in holiday. You know, that is the life. That's how life has to be. What kind of influence your father had on you? I did not say parents because I think she was no more when you were very young. I think 6 years or so. So definitely, your father must be having a great influence on you. Can you explain?
Yeah, I was 7 when my mother passed away, but she definitely had a huge role to play. I remember her quite clearly and the way she was with people. At that time, because the foundation was just beginning and the consecration of the Dhyan Linga had not happened yet, my father actually was far more intense, and he could be very single-pointed focus because he had come with a purpose and that's what he was kind of trying to fulfill. Whereas my mother is the one who would take care of people, and she would sometimes be at meetings and she'd be like, okay, now you have to stop because they have not eaten the whole day. And she would she would be the mother to everybody. My father is definitely a great influence on my life, as much as anybody's father is, but also much more than that, because he's somebody, the variety of activity that he's involved in, not just in terms of if you just look at the activity that the foundation is involved, if you look at the social outreach that happens, the arts and classical music and dance that they have now as part of the foundation's outreach programs, they have medical outreach programs, we have environmental outreach program. Of course, the crux of it is the spiritual process, because that is what the foundation is about. But as part of that, there are so many other things that happen, and he's involved in all of it, every single detail. He has a hand in it. He kind of has it planned out, and it's slowly like a web. It kind of grows out, and the programs get larger and things like that. And the involvement with which he engages with everybody that he comes across, I think it's quite incredible. And it's hard not to be influenced by somebody like that in all the best ways.
Did you inherit any qualities of him? Do you think so? Or anybody close to you like your father or anything like that?
You'll have to ask the people around me.
But he's laughing. I think you should answer, Sandeep.
No, I don't know. I don't know. I've heard a lot of the longtime volunteers, and especially brahmacharis in the ashram, will be speaking to Radhe, and after some time they'll just look at each other or look at me and say, she speaks just like her father, and things like that. Or even her approach to certain problems as they arise. How does she approach them, and her solution or her suggestions? A lot of the times they kind of comment or say these things in a good way. Obviously, they're like, oh wow, she just thinks and says so many things like her father. So I don't know.
He only met my father after he met me. So
that's true.
If anything, he thinks the other way.
I didn't even know who her father was until I met her. So for me, it happened in so many different ways.
Let me ask you in such a way, Sandeep, what Sadhguru has the qualities of your wives?
Oh man, somebody quotes me on this, I'll get in trouble. No, I think definitely sense of aesthetics was something that she felt so strongly about. She had something that she was so sure of. Then I realized later on where it came from. So some things like that I could realize, okay, this is where it comes from, and I could trace it back to her father or to the ashram in some way. So I think few things like that.
We're very different people in terms of what we like and what we don't like. It's a it's a miracle that we live in the same house and that we're okay with the way the house looks, because in terms of what he thinks the house should look like, and he has very strong opinions on what the house should look like, and the way I think the house should be or should be decorated, or what should be there and what shouldn't be there. It's a miracle that we found a middle ground and we both enjoy being at home.
Nice to hear that. So I would like to ask you about the Sisya, the initiative which you have started, Radhe. I know that bonding and the relation between Guru and Sisya is an age-old tradition and very special in our culture, which is almost fading now. Maybe in certain art forms, people still must be having, and you are trying to revive that. Tell us about this, and also your relationship with your Guru, Miss Leela Sampson. You are mentioning about her earlier.
Sisya is a very small expression of, I think, what many of us experience, but not necessarily something that we put into words. So I was quite particular when I interviewed those 3 people, and there are a few more videos coming out, but I've been involved in some other projects right now, so it's taken not a back seat, but maybe the middle seat. I was very particular that it doesn't have to be a teacher. So particularly with Bharatanatyam and with classical music, when we say Guru, we mean that one person who's really influenced our music. And it may be directly your teacher, but there are a lot of people who, we say Manasika Guru, like you hear them or you watch them so much that you learn from them, even though maybe they are no more, or maybe they don't teach you directly. But I was quite particular that some of the artists at least express what they have learned from friends. And in that sense, everybody is a student in any moment of learning. Any time that um, somebody is able to express something new in your understanding, something new and something that makes a difference in your life, I feel that it's important to recognize that moment, because like you said, particularly with dance and music, we see it, and we say my guru and my sishya, and we have these terms are very common. But I think even in business, even in really any field of life, even if you're a homemaker, there are moments where your mother says something about managing something in the house that you just think, oh, that's how did you get there? It's kind of it's an eye-opening moment. So I wanted to convey that these relationships are more than just about having someone senior explain something to you because they have a wealth of knowledge. Sometimes it's just because you are more willing to learn something at a certain moment. And sometimes it's because a child says something. I think one person who, it's not out yet, but one person talks about how in dance they were trying to fall, and in dance we learn many ways of falling. Falling gracefully on the stage. We slide. We get down on our knees. There's so many different ways of doing it. So that was part of the choreography. And one of, I think, their younger friends had just said, you fell very beautifully, but you didn't just fall. And just that one sentence, for this person was a moment of growth, because they realized that you can have a very stylized art form, but if it doesn't translate to the audience, something as simple as just falling on stage can have a huge impact. So as a dancer, that had a huge impact on that person. So it's just these moments that I want to highlight. And for people who are not dancers and musicians, I would like them to see the different ways in which we approach our art. It's not just that you learn something and you practice it and then you rehearse it and put it on stage, and then it's lights and costumes and jewelry, and it's there's all of that and it's interesting. But that's not really where the heart of the art form lies. It's in these little moments of learning, these little relationships that you have with people, um, and the relationship you build with an audience for just that time that you are on stage. It's a very intense relationship you have with the audience. It's people you don't know, but just because they are watching you and you are performing for them, you feel so connected to them for that, hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, however long you're on stage. So it's a small expression of that.
Yeah, any stage of life, and any people can be, we can learn from anyone. So anyone can be our guru. Yes. I think when it comes to Guru and Sisya relation, I think I should come back to Sandeep. Your relation with your Guru, Sri K.S. Krishnamurti, I think you used to call him as the KSK Mama, you mentioned somewhere. That training under him gave you a very strong foundation, and later Sri Sanjay Subramanian. Can you explain the influence of those gurus in your life? I know initially you learned when your mother is teaching others and all. I think she must be your first guru. And later on, can you explain?
Yeah. So as you said, my mother was my first guru, Srimati Shubha Narayan in Los Angeles, and my music lesson started with me basically sitting on her lap and just listening to other students, because she was running and still runs a music school in Southern California. And I started humming along with the other students and just sort of learning some of those songs. So then my parents realized, okay, this guy is picking up some of the music. We should start actually teaching him. So when I was just 4 years old, my mom sat me down and actually started teaching me some songs, small songs. And definitely had a strong interest, and I took to it. And for many years, I was a very obedient student. Even at that young age, if my mom told me, okay, class time, I would come running and sit down for class. I was very excited. And even when other students were having class, I would come and sit down. And I was like over enthusiastic in that way. But as I got a little bit older, at the age of 10, 11, I started getting a little bit more rebellious, and I just figured it's my mom, I'd rather go play. So when she asked me to come for class, I would fight with her and just not show up. And then my father would get home from work and ask, did I practice? Did I have class? Did I learn a new song? And so he was wondering why I'm sitting in the house not getting class. My mother is saying, I call him for class every day, he doesn't come. And I'm happily just, running around and screaming as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid. So my parents realized that I do have that interest and inclination towards this, but at the same time, I was, not ready to sit down, and that seriousness was not there when my mother was the teacher. It was hard for her to balance being the mother and the teacher at the same time. So they were looking to find another teacher for me at that time. And KSK Mama was recommended. We have many musician friends in Chennai who used to stay with us when they performed tours in the US. So few of them strongly recommended KS Krishnamurti Mama, and said, he's a very senior teacher. He teaches all the other senior musicians, but it'll be good training and we'll introduce you. So at first, I didn't know this. Later on, he told me, but he said I was so hesitant to take on this 11-year-old kid from America. I said, what am I doing? Why am I teaching this 11-year-old boy from America? And later on, he was very happy though. He said, I did it as a favor. We all have common musician friends, but after you started the lessons, I was very happy, because then he saw that I had that interest, that I wasn't just doing this as some side hobby or something, that I was very passionate about it. Even at a young age, I don't know if I could call it passion, but I was definitely interested. Something, there was something in me that drew me to the music. That I didn't know how to explain then, of course. I didn't mind practicing. I would rather do that than go to school. And that was one major thing for me when I was 11 years old. My parents, I think in a lot of ways, my parents were just very progressive thinking, they just thought of doing so many different things. At the age of 11, they thought, why not send him to India to learn music for a year? And I don't think anybody else had really done that, or definitely not a common thought. I was in the middle of school, and school they kind of put on the back burner. They thought, okay, if he can attend school there, it'll be great. If not, the focus will be music. And that's actually how I started learning from KSK Mama, was that I didn't go to school for 1 year and I just went for music class. I don't know that, I definitely did not know how serious that step was. At that time that my parents, proposed this idea to me, I was just happy that I didn't have to go to school for 1 year. It was like, will you go to India and learn music and you don't have to go to school for 1 year? Like, I was like, yes, you got me right there. I don't know what else you said, but no school 1 year, I'm in. So for me, that's like what hooked me in, and I loved it. I went for music class 2-3 times a week. I practiced the rest of the days. I had friends in India. My mother was with me, so me and my mom were in India for a year, and I had a great time. And I think that was so crucial for me, as sort of a transition time, that music became much more serious. And so even though I went back to the US and I continued school, I actually just skipped 7th grade. So after 6th grade, I came to India for a year. I went back and I went to 8th grade. So I just never had a 7th grade. I don't know, whatever they all learned in that year, I just skipped it. And so, and I did perfectly fine after that. So clearly it wasn't that important. But from then on, my music was very serious. And after KSK Mama passed away in 1999, there was a lot of discussion. Okay, now who will he learn from? I was very clear at that point. I wanted to go to Sanjay sir, because I was a big fan of his. He was a senior disciple of KSK Mama. He had been learning from him for several years. So in a lot of ways, it made sense. I remember he was hesitant because he said, you're going from somebody so senior like KSK Mama. And at that time, Sanjay was a senior artist, but not as senior as he is today. And he had just come to the senior level of concerts and that name recognition globally. So he said, why not send him to somebody else? And my parents said, no, he's very clear. He wants to learn from you. And we're also very happy he bonded with you. We had become close friends and family friends by that time. So we had a personal relationship also. We used to talk about basketball and other styles of music and anything under the sun. So for me, I was very happy to start learning music from him. And that began my lessons. And my lessons from him were in the classroom, 45 minutes to 1 hour, but I would spend hours at his house before the class, after the class, before concerts, after concerts. And that is when I learned so much. So I did learn songs, of course, in the class, but I learned so much more about being a musician, about being an artist, from him outside of the classroom. And those are really the things that I think made such an impact on me. Musically, of course, goes without saying, but the artist that I am today, I think he had probably the strongest influence of who I became as an artist, not just musically, but in so many different ways. So at each stage, these have been my three main gurus, you could say. As Radhe mentioned, there's so many other people along the way that we learn from that at some point or another were like gurus to me. Many people like that. But if you look at the three main figures for me, the three main mentors, gurus, at each stage of my life, at each age, and what I needed musically, what I needed in so many other ways, it was almost perfect. I was so lucky to have those three people to sort of encourage me and support me in those ways at those different times.
Wonderful. What made you to decide to come back after undergraduation, doing law there, leaving the family behind? And it's not easy to come and relocate. So you know Radhe by then, and that's why you moved in?
No, not at all. In fact, a couple of funny stories. So first one, the reason why I moved to India was when I started my undergrad was in the year 2002. I graduated high school, and by then I was coming for every summer vacation, winter vacation, and going back for school. When I came that winter, so I had just finished one term of college, of undergrad. And my teacher at that time, Sanjay sir, said, "Why are you even studying? You should just be here doing music. What are you, wasting time, wasting money on a college education? You can just be here, come for class, go sing concerts, attend concerts." And he kind of planted that idea in my head. It was just a little seed in my head. And I kind of thought it was crazy, but it was an interesting idea. My parents thought it was really crazy and told him, please don't put such ideas in his head, make him finish college. And it was just something totally that we hadn't considered at all. But I think he planted that idea in my head, and from then it grew, literally grew. He put that seed in my head and it just grew over time. So by the time I was in my third or fourth year, the final year of undergrad, I had decided, okay, after this, I'm going to move to India for 1 or 2 years. It was I'll just go for some time and spend some time and really focus on this, because I had done it at the age of 11, but it was completely different now at the age of 19, 20. The focus that I could give to it, and my interest, of course, had grown so much. And so I said, okay, I should spend some time. What was interesting was after I graduated college and I moved to India, I came with the idea of going back in a year. But after 1 year, I felt like I was just scratching the surface. So then I said, I need to give it more time. And I spent another 6 months, 1 year. But in that time, my parents were getting very worried. So I remember one trip in between when I had gone home for a month or two, my dad asked, okay, what is your plan? You need to come back and either work or go to grad school, and usual things that people do. So I said, I don't know, I was unsure, but I said, I feel like I need to give this more time, and I'm enjoying it, but I feel like I definitely need to give it more time and focus, and it's not something that'll just happen so quickly. So he said, well, eventually you're going to have responsibilities. You've got to put food on the table and all that stuff, usual parental worries. He was saying all these things, and I'm like, I think I was like 20 years old, so I don't have a care in the world. Or no, I was 21, 22 by then, but still don't have a care in the world. I'm enjoying. And so I just said, yeah, but I'm happy there. What's the problem? And, I said to him, people make enough money there and they're happy there. So I could be one of those people. And then my dad said very simply, he said, well, people are used to a certain lifestyle, standard of living. And I think people there are happy, artists are happy. He said, you grew up in America and I'm not sure you'll be happy, because I worry that you won't be okay with that lifestyle and that standard of living. If you're okay with it, I'm happy, but I don't know. And I'm very worried about that. So then I was like, oh, okay, that's a good point. I don't know. But I had friends at that point. I had relatives and I had company. So I was kind of happy. I think as time went on, I just got more opportunities to perform. I was making some strides. But after three or 4 years, I started to get a little bit worried. So yes, I was doing well, but was I doing well enough? Was I making enough progress? I started to get, probably I was getting older and I was not as carefree anymore by the time I was 24, 25. And so I started to worry about the things that my father worried about when I was 21. And I started thinking, do I need to go back? And I actually started to apply to grad school in America. I remember even meeting with professors and deciding, do I want to stay in music? Do I want to pursue law further? Because my bachelor's degree was in law. And at one time I did want to be a lawyer. So I had all these decisions to make, and what am I going to do? And I started to second guess my time in India. And after a certain point also, it's difficult to just come back to America and get into work or get it back into grad school. You've missed so much time when all of your peers are working or they're studying. You're now that many years behind them. So it was also that time when I was getting a little worried about that. Oddly enough, when I brought this up with my parents, they were the ones who said, no, I think things are going better for you now. I feel like you have to give it some more time. And I was shocked. I said, wait, now you've kind of done a 180. And then I mentioned it to my guru, to Sanjay sir, and he was very clear. He said to me from the beginning, you don't know when something will click, but I feel that you have the potential and you have the work ethic and you're, talented enough that you just got to wait. You've got to have the patience for it. That's what I didn't have. I didn't have patience. So he was very clear about that. And I had this long discussion with him. And I remember he told me, he said, okay, you've said that you want to leave after 6 months or 1 year, whatever it is. Now for the next 6 months to 1 year, I don't ever want to hear you say this again. It's there. You've said it to me. I'm aware of it. Your parents know about it. It's in your head. Now leave it. From now on till whatever, 6 months, 1 year, I want you to just ignore that and focus completely on your music, and we'll see what happens. So I did that. I said, okay, fair enough. And I just focused, I practiced, I went for concerts, and I started to get some much bigger opportunities, and people were discussing possible tours. And so a lot of things opened up in that time. And so he said, see, I told you never know when it'll click. But if you have 1 foot out the door, it's never going to happen because you're already halfway to the US. You're not giving it your full undivided attention. So he was very clear about that. And I think that was a big thing for me that I said, okay, fine, fair enough. I'll just focus for the next 6 months or 10 months and see. And that was definitely a time when musically a lot of doors opened and a lot of things changed. And I was so happy. And he said, see, it just happens when it happens. You can't predict it. For some people, it happens immediately. And some people, it takes 4 years. But when it happens, and you've got to be ready. So I think at that point, in a lot of ways, I was ready. And so some of that patience, I'm an impatient person in general, but I just had a little bit of patience because of my gurus telling me that, my parents giving me that encouragement. They also said, whatever support you need, we're here. And my brothers also, I have 2 older brothers who are musicians, but took up their academic studies and professions as their primary focus. But I got a lot of support from all of them. And they said, no, we think you should stick with this. We see something. It's a lot of the times it's hard to see it when you're in it, but everybody around me saw it. And I remember even getting a call from a very famous musician one day, Dr. Ramani, flutist, very famous flutist. He was my brother's guru, and he called me one day. Something had come in a magazine about me. And he said, I read this and I've been hearing so much about you, and I just wanted to tell you that you need to stick with it. So I was like, wow, somebody like that is taking notice. That's a huge thing. And I said, thank you so much. And he said, I know what it takes. I've been through all the ups and downs, and I've seen so many musicians, my students, my family, extended family, so many students of students. I've seen all of them try, some succeed, some don't. And I see in you the potential to succeed. So just stick with it. So that was like a really big moment for me. And I won't forget that phone call. I can picture where I was sitting. These things in your memory, they make that permanent. They're burned in your memory forever because these are things in your lifetime that make huge impact. So musically, I was getting to that point where, okay, I had a confidence. But you asked about if I had met Radhe. I had not. It was many years later that I met Radhe and that we decided to get married. And I remember sending an email to one of my friends from college. And the email was, I'm getting married and I don't know if you can make it out here, but just wanted to let you know, and I'd love it if you can attend the wedding. So he was a pretty close friend from college. And I remember he replied to my email and he said, man, I always, he's like, I know you told me you moved out there permanently, but some part of me thought you might move back to LA. You might at some time move back, but now you're getting married. That's it. I'm never going to see you again. And so it was kind of like, it was permanent even before that, but that really made it very permanent. Yeah. That I was getting married to somebody in India and another artist based out of Chennai. So my friends realized. I made it very clear that I'm not moving to the US. So. Yeah. I didn't want to move back to the US, but she was also very clear about that. So my friends knew, okay, that's it. You're definitely never moving back now. So it was kind of just interesting how that all happened.
Interesting to, each person's journey is very different. Certain people will be able to make it and certain people may not. But the journeys are very interesting. Uh, can I request IT to play this song?
காவேரி தாயே உன் மடி குழந்தை நானும் பால் தந்த நெஞ்சை காயப்படுத்திய பாவி நானும் என் வாழ்க்கைக்கும் முக்திக்கும் வழியானவள் நீனும் என் உயிர் மலர்ச்சிக்கு மூலமானவள் நீனும் தாயே உன்னையே ஏற்றி வதைச்ச மூடன் நான் இன்னும் பிறக்காத உயிருக்கு ஆபத்து தந்தவன் நான் என் முட்டாள்தனத்தை மன்னிச்சிடு தாயே என் நாடி நரம்புல ஓடுற ரத்தம் நீ என் உயிருக்கே மூலமானவளும் நீயே காவேரி தாயே உனக்காக அர்ப்பணிப்பே என் உசிறு
காவேரி தாயே உந்தன் மடி குழந்தனா காவேரி தாயே உந்தன் மடி குழந்தனா பால் தந்த நெஞ்ச காயப்படுத்திய பாவினா பால் தந்த நெஞ்ச காயப்படுத்திய பாவினா என் வாழ்க்கைக்கும் முக்திக்கும் வழியானவள் நீயே நீயே என் வாழ்க்கைக்கும் முக்திக்கும் வழியானவள் நீயே நீயே என் உயிர் மலர்ச்சிக்கு மூலமானவளும் நீயே தாயே என் உயிர் மலர்ச்சிக்கு மூலமானவளும் நீயே தாயே காவேரி தாயே என் உசிர உனக்கு அர்ப்பணிப்பேனே காவேரி தாயே என் உசிர உனக்கு அர்ப்பணிப்பேனே தாய் உன்னையே எட்டி உதைச்ச மூடன் நான். இன்னும் பிறக்காத உயிருக்கும் ஆபத்தை தந்தவன் நான். என் முட்டாள்தனத்தை மன்னிக்க வேணும் நீயே தாயே என் முட்டாள்தனத்தை மன்னிக்க வேணும் நீயே தாயே காவேரி தாயே என் உசிர உனக்கு அர்ப்பணிப்பேனே காவேரி தாயே என் உசிர உனக்கு அர்ப்பணிப்பேனே.
It's a wonderful song. I had listened to your music earlier, Sandeep. It's wonderful, classical. People say that from younger generation musicians, you have the capability of taking the art to the new generation and to crossover audience. This song, I just loved it. Maybe because of the meaning, singing about the mother, apologizing. I can hear your soul in this song. In Telugu, there is an emotion called ardhrata. I don't know exact word for that emotion either in English or in Tamil. You had conveyed it so beautiful, such a social message very effectively you are able to, communicate this. So can you say something about this?
About the song itself, I mean, it was interesting because until very recently, I have not sung anything that's really outside of the realm of very hardcore, pure Carnatic. And though this is not something which is like poppy and very westernized, it's very much Indian and Indian in its flavor, but it was still something more folk and something which I hadn't done. But I saw the lyrics and I had heard a rough version of the song, and I could see, like you said, it has to do with the lyrics, the meaning, the message, everything there. It was something then I think just changed when I got in the studio to record it. And in fact, even the person recording it was quite surprised. He said, I didn't expect you to be able to sing like with a little bit of that raw approach. I said, I don't know. I didn't do anything consciously. I just thought of the lyrics and I just thought of the tune and went with it and worked out. So as you said, very much had to do with that meaning and the message. For me, Kaveri Calling at first was another one of so many things happening in the ashram. And we're not always deeply involved with everything going on, obviously, because there's so many things. And we are also in our own world as artists. So this was something that they said, okay, there's going to be this Kaveri Calling rally. And I thought, okay, we go travel around and I'll be on the back of a motorbike. It'll be fun. And that's what I was, even that, I thought just a couple of days out of, I think, a 2-week rally, I was just going to join for 2 days. Something about the riding, the rally, the events, I just fell in love with the whole thing. And I ended up, I had to go back to Chennai in the middle because I had concerts. And I ended up joining again after the concerts were done, which nobody expected. It was, Radhe was shocked. I think her father was shocked. And definitely the organizers handling logistics were shocked because they didn't have a hotel room for me anywhere. And I said, it's okay, I'll sleep on the floor, I'll share a room. So it was something that like I had told everybody clearly, I'm not coming after the first couple of days. But something for me changed, and it was just amazing to see the movement, the people involved, and the people in so many different cities, just the first 2-3 days, the response. I said, wow, I really want to, I wasn't doing anything active, just being part of it and following along at that point. But my small contribution was this song, which I was so happy that I could at least do that. And it was also funny how that came about because it was literally, I think Sadhguru called one day and just said, can you sing this song? And I was in Chennai. And I said, I can try, but I don't know when or how or what. And I had never heard it. It was some rough version that they had done in the studio. I'd never heard it. He said, just call, in the music department, there's somebody here, just call and see how it can be done. So I got the call in the morning. In the evening, I flew to Coimbatore, came to the ashram. Next day morning, I recorded the song. Next day afternoon, I flew back to Chennai because I had a concert the following day. And it was really like, I don't know, the whole thing was so crazy, but it's also something that like, if Sadhguru feels that it should happen, it'll happen. So it was just really nice how it all came together. And I was happy to contribute in a very small way, the grand scheme of things, but some contribution that I could make. I think Radhe can speak a lot more about Kaveri Calling and the whole.
I'm going to come to her. I'm coming to her, but
I have to say though, like Sandeep is somebody who plans well in advance and he has to have everything in place. Every detail has to be worked out before he will put one foot out of the house. And somehow when he was asked to sing this song, he was like, I don't think I can go. I said, just go. Like it's, and obviously pre-pandemic, you could travel very easily. So I said, just catch an evening flight, go and come back tomorrow. No, I have a concert. I don't know and all that. I said, just go. And then he packed his bag and he left. I was so shocked that like within an hour, he was like, okay, I've booked my flight. I'm going. I was like, really? Okay.
I was shocked too. I think nobody believed it till I actually stepped foot in the ashram. Nobody thought I was actually going to show up.
So yeah, I think many things changed also for him after Kaveri Calling, because really seeing the movement and seeing the way that people responded, and clearly it was something that people were waiting for, and somebody just had to stand up and say, okay, this is a possibility. It was an experience for sure.
So apart from many other people, Kaveri called even Sandeep. So he is also, drawn into that. I know what is
also, he's originally from Tanjavur, like just outside Tanjavur.
So for me, Kaveri as a river also, I've actually gone into the Kaveri when it was flowing as a child, and now of course it only has water sometimes of the year. But as a child, I've seen it flowing because my father is from Tiruvayadu, so on the banks of the Kaveri. It's so it was very meaningful in that way as well.
Yeah, that's why your voice, your soul came into the voice.
Oh, thank you.
So, rivers are the best resources of water. We all know that earlier civilization are formed along the rivers, and saving rivers is a great initiative, and we're doing through Kaveri Calling. Before you elaborate it, I would like to request IT to play the video. Radhe, this is for you.
And so I thought this is the best way to raise awareness in whatever way I can, because the only thing I know how to do is dance. Tonight's star and tonight's special guest is someone who is a fantastic dancer. Let's welcome Radhe Jaggi. The project I'm here in the US for right now is Kaveri Calling.
So tell us more about the project and how you got involved.
I was very fortunate to be able to be on the first week of the rally, which was in the Karnataka part of the section. We started in Talakaveri. So Kaveri Calling is an agroforestry economic plan for the farming community that has ecological benefits. What this means is that we're going village by village, farm by farm, talking to the farmers, educating them on all the positives of agroforestry. We're requesting that they cover 1/3 of their land under tree shade. And anybody who knows Sadhguru knows that when he dreams big, he really dreams big. So we're not doing one small area, we're going to do the entire Kaveri Basin. He has committed 12 years of his life. Those of us around him are trying to do as much as we can for this as well.
So Radhe, please explain more.
Kaveri Calling essentially is an economic plan for the farming community. It has environmental effects, and I think this is the reason that it has been successful so far, and this is the reason why it will be successful in the future, because it is not about it's neither about the government, nor about an NGO, nor about activists. It's not about any of these people finding place to plant trees. The approach is purely economical. It is 100% for the farming community to ensure that they can plant trees over 1/3 of their land, whatever farmland that they own. This has various benefits. The very first is economic benefit, because if you grow a cash crop, if you grow a cash crop, then you have to harvest it every 6 months. Whereas if you have a tree, and it could be anything from expensive timber like teak and mahogany, it could be horticulture like mango and all the other fruits that we have in southern India. It could be not silver oak, I'm forgetting the other. But in coffee plantations, they have trees that provide a certain level of shade, and they can grow pepper on it, and they generally grow silver oak, which is actually not native to southern India. So what Isha Foundation has done as part of Kaveri Calling is that we have worked with various different people, and we've set up nurseries in different areas. So we grow good quality saplings over a period of anywhere from 2 months to about 9 months, depending on what tree it is. And we offer it to the farmer so that they can plant it. We go village by village, and we educate them on the advantages of having partly agroforestry. So we don't want them to do 100% forestry. We want them to do partly. So they plant trees, and then they grow their other crops in between the trees. So whether you're growing paddy, or you're growing wheat, or you're growing ragi or bajra or lentils or manjal or whatever it is that you're growing, you grow it in between the trees. So what this means is that on a yearly basis, you have economic value. But at the end of 5 years or at the end of 8 years, your income goes up significantly, because you then benefit from the economic value of the tree that you have planted. Now, this is the economic benefits of Kaveri Calling. The environmental benefits of Kaveri Calling, of course, are multifold. When the tree root system spreads into the earth, it actually holds a lot of water. Now, especially, Chennai, I'm sure all of you have heard the number of times that when it rains, we have floods. It's purely because the water is not retained in the land. We've always had heavy monsoons, and now, even though our monsoons are not as heavy, we have far more flash floods and then far more droughts. And people think these are opposite problems, but actually it's the same. The root cause of it is the exact same. The quality of earth that we have, the quality of mud and soil that we have over here, usually the organic content percentage is quite high. But because we don't have any trees in our farmlands anymore. What essentially happens is that when you grow a crop, it takes away all the nutrients, and then you get rid of the crop and you sell it. So now nothing goes back into the earth. When you have trees as part of your farmland, the leaves that fall, the animal waste that falls, all of that goes back into the earth and serves to become mulch and then serves to become nutrition. So even the quality of product that you get out of a farm which uses agroforestry as part of their farming technique is much higher in yield as opposed to one that doesn't. It essentially stores water in the land, and we have seen this even with many farmers around us, that people who have gone for agroforestry in the middle of summer will get water in their bowels, and people 3 farms away will not have water in their bowels. So it's not some, it's a long-term plan, because if you don't commit to it for 12 years, then en masse, for it to affect the whole of southern India and then the rest of the country, it's not feasible if it's a shorter period of time. But individual farmer to individual farmer, it actually works also as a short-term plan, because within 5 years, your income goes up almost 800 times. I mean, 8%. Sorry, your income goes up almost 8 times. So it's an 800% increase based on what kind of tree you plant and how long it takes for that tree to have economic gain. So yes, the first year, the first 2 years is a little bit of a commitment, and there are various government schemes that already allow for a farmer to do this. One problem that we had initially, and this has been solved through the help of the governments that are there right now, is that if you grow a tree on your land, you are not allowed to cut it. You need government permission to cut it. So that is one thing that has been changed. That they have released a few hundred types of trees that can be grown on their land and can be cultivated and cut if they have to be cut for timber, or whatever a farmer wants to do with something that he grows on his land is entirely his business. That is also part of it. Now, if I grow a tree in my land and I'm not allowed to cut it, why will I plant a tree?
That's
true. Why will I invest that amount of money, that amount of effort, that amount of fertilizer if I don't get economic gain out of it? So it is an economic plan with ecological impact, and it has been very successful so far. We have many volunteers who have come forward, and they've dedicated a minimum of 3 years of their life. They go village to village educating them on what are the types of trees that they can plant in their land. So it's also region specific, because all along the Kaveri belt, the land and the terrain and everything changes. So it's very region specific. So what you can grow in North Karnataka is not the same as what you can grow in South Karnataka or North Tamil Nadu or South Tamil Nadu. So, it's the details have all been worked out. And so we refer to them as Nadi Viras, and they go educating farmers and they help them with the saplings. We make sure that they receive it. We make sure that they take care of the sapling. And now if I have invested in a sapling, I'm going to ensure that it grows because it's economic benefit for me. So a lot of people were questioning, okay, now you plant trees, now who will take care of them? It's not for anyone else to do it. It was an awareness campaign to ensure that the farmers invested in themselves, so that in the long term, they are able to have a different level of economic growth and well-being that we feel only, city people or urban people or business people have access to. And farmers feed us. Only about 3 or 4% of farmers, their children wanted to continue to be farmers. For about 90% of them, they didn't want to continue with the trade. So then where do you go for food? You have to ensure that they live comfortably. We have to ensure that whatever it is that they produce from their land has value, and that we value it as citizens. So it's a multi-fold plan that has come together in a very simple form of planting trees in agricultural land.
It is simple yet very powerful. I feel for more and more rivers, we implement that, then, this kind of water problem, droughts and floods, all these, problems won't be there. And farmers should be rich. Rich means, they should be comfortable. That is what finally we look for. IT, can you play the last video, please? It's a very short one.
जटा भुजंग पिंगल जटा भुजंग पिंगल स्फुरत् फणामणि प्रभा.
Sandeep, we made it very short because only your voice is to be heard. You are not to be seen. That's why we thought maybe you'll get upset. That is the reason we just made it very, very short.
No, it's okay. It's already a short video, so that's fine though.
I know
it's available. I guess people can see it if they want to see it in full.
Considering music and dance are intertwined, it is very surprising that you both have not performed together. Is this a conscious decision, or do you have any future plans to perform together?
Want to take that?
It is pretty conscious. It's a conscious decision. In fact, even for today's event, I think somebody saw the flyer and message saying, "Oh, finally, both of you are on the same poster together, same flyer together," because even that is a rare sighting. It just kind of comes down to the fact that we artists. That's the only time that we do anything separately. Otherwise, everything we live together. It's not like we go to a 9-to-5 office job. So we're working at home. We travel together a lot of the time. Like she said, if I'm going for a concert, she'll come there a lot of the times. If she is going somewhere for performance, I'll see if I can go and spend some time there. So there's so much of time spent together that this is the one thing that we do separately. I think if we do this also together, then I don't know, then there may not be so much harmony in all the other things. So you have to somewhere separate it and do something separately. So we've consciously kept at least these two things, her dance and my music, a little bit separated at least. But you know, I mean, having said that, this was one example where we did come together and do something, and there have, not that we're thinking of anything specific, but people do ask us often, and so we consider different ways in which we can collaborate. It's not off the table, but we don't want to do the traditional approach or the usual ways of, you know, just performing like I sing and she dances. Something like that maybe in the future, I don't know.
I think we're also happy to collaborate with each other in the same way that we're happy to collaborate with other artists. Not because he's my husband and I have a musician at home, or because I'm a dancer and there is a dancer at home. That has never been a good enough reason for us to work together. But when something comes, you know, really comes together and it happens well, like this sort of somehow naturally happened. We don't avoid it, we're not against it. But now I've collaborated with him once, and now I'll work with other musicians before I come back to work with him. I mean, it's the same thing the other way.
We're also very clear that, like she said, we shouldn't just work together because we're, you know, in the same house or in the same room. There have been times when she had a piece and she asked if I'll record it, and then I thought about it and I said, we thought about who else can do it, and we decided somebody else will do it better. And she said, yeah, actually, and then she had somebody else record it. So it also comes down to being objective in those things and having a more of a rational, objective approach, and not always just going to each other because we're easily available as artists.
And it's hard enough to be objective about your own art form, because you never actually see yourself perform. You never actually experience it from the audience perspective. Even if you watch yourself perform, you're always, you're looking at all the things you did or you didn't do. So I think, and as an artist, you have to be objective, or you have to try to be objective, because otherwise, to ensure that the quality of your performance, remains a certain way or increases in terms of what it is very difficult. And I think we've somehow managed to do that, even with the way we look at each other's art. He says I'm his worst critic.
Well, most honest critic, I guess. It's good and bad.
But I think that's why it works, because I know that if I do something on stage and I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, I can ask him and say, okay, for someone who who hasn't learned dance and who's just an audience member, how did it work for you? And it's the same for him. Is if he has a performance and he's not quite sure where it landed, I'm not, I've never been a music student, very, very, on and off. My knowledge of music is not that great, more from listening, but not from learning. Then I'm able to give him a semi-objective view on how his performance was or what I thought would have worked better.
Those are the good days. If I'm not sure and she tells me how it was, that's a good thing. But on the day when I think the concert went really well and she thinks otherwise, that's a bad thing.
Then I think
you want to know what I think? I'll tell you what I think.
There's two people who are probably the most brutally honest. It's my wife and my mother. When it comes to my music, I'll think I had a great concert and I'll come home and my mother was there. She'll say, "It was okay today. I liked that concert the other day better. Today was okay. It wasn't bad, but it was just okay." I'm like, "Thank you very much." So they keep me grounded.
I totally understand. And it's a good decision also what you had taken, I think.
I mean, it works for us. I don't know if it works for everybody, but it works for us.
It worked for us also.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, you had mentioned.
So finally, I would like to ask you, what accomplishments do you see yourselves achieving as a couple or as individuals in next 5 years?
I have no plans.
No plans.
I'm the exact opposite of Sandeep, where I have no plans ever. I'm always just happy with whatever happens. I think essentially is just to elevate the art form in some sense, whether that means that my performances get better or that the ideas that I portray through the shows get, they become different or conceptually they're different. Or if it's working on a project that will ensure that the art form survives or not survives, it's doing very well, but that it's propagated, because I think classical music, classical art, they're considered very niche. And I think that's something that needs to change. It never used to be niche. It was offered in a temple space where everybody had access to it. And now people assume they don't have access to it. It's not even that they don't have access. People just assume that they don't have access to it. Yeah. So I think as artists, it's important to ensure that people who feel like maybe it's something that would be interesting, that you make it easy enough for them to take that step forward and come for a performance or learn about music, learn about dance. So anything that goes in that direction in the next 5 years, that works for me as a plan.
For me, I don't know. Like she says, I am or was a serial planner. If you even look at my calendar now, like every minute of the day is kind of planned out what I'm doing. But it was like that till about a year ago. I knew every year what tour I have and what travel I have and what performance I have. And it also was good because in the last 6 to 8 years, things started to get planned earlier and earlier, which makes it a lot easier, like 1 year ahead of time or 2 years ahead of time, you're booking tours, which is great. You know what you're going to be doing and then you have a plan. Then last year I had 3 tours and all got canceled because of COVID. So that was a big, big, big bummer. I was supposed to go to Australia, New Zealand, US, Canada, and everything canceled. So I think that because of that, now no plans. I'm just like, let's see what happens. We've all had to adapt so much. And I think especially artists have had to really figure out ways of connecting with their audiences and, like she said, propagating our art forms at the same time, and also exploring our art and growing, because a lot of the growth is through the performance and meeting different audiences. Yeah. But we haven't been able to do that now. So it's been a lot of, kind of introspection and how do we grow as artists and how does the music grow when it's kind of, we're all locked down in different places. So it's been a lot of reevaluation of that. And I don't know now we even had rescheduled last year's tour for this year. And of course it got canceled again because things are still going the way they are. Now we rescheduled for next year. So it's all fluid at this point. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, it's also fine. I think I've also learned to accept that may not go as you plan it every time. I wish it would. I like to have that plan, like she says, and be organized. I'm super organized, but I've also now kind of accepted that it won't always work out that way, and that's also okay. I think a big thing for me that's happened in this time, the last one to 2 years, even before lockdown, is that I've also come to a place where I felt confident as an established artist, and I wanted to start to explore music within, as being a Carnatic musician, but how can we grow that, and what can I also do musically in other genres, whether it's to mix genres or to try a different genre myself, whatever it might be, in whatever form, but to reach wider audiences without without sort of sacrificing or compromising what I believe in as my, my principles, or what I consider to be classical or my classicism, because those are anyway subjective things, and that's a conversation for another time. But basically, kind of balancing these things and growing as an artist, but in a lot of different directions I never expected. So I don't know that I could say in 5 years what I would be doing. I have no.
Hopefully, we would like to see you in person performing. Maybe if everything goes well in December in Chennai.
Yes, and Hyderabad is somewhere that I started coming to increasingly in the last few years. Before that, I had just come once in 2-3 years, but last 2 or 3 years, I had visited Hyderabad for a concert at least 2 or 3 times in a year. And last year I had a couple of concerts set up, which of course got canceled. And so that's one place I love to come, and I was coming more often, and then all this happened. So I hope to be back very soon.
He also likes to come to Hyderabad because we buy all his dhotis in Hyderabad, because he only wears those pondur varieties.
Yeah, that's true.
Proud to see you both and host you both and enjoy your great art in person. And thank you so much, Radhe and Sandeep, for sharing your journey with us. You both are not only great artists, proved as responsible human beings also, showing that art can influence the people to take forward social causes and initiatives by playing an important role in the Kaveri Calling campaign, setting the standards for how the rivers in India can be revitalized. You had demonstrated that any art, be it music or dance, can be a higher source of influence in society than any other media. All the best and more laurels for you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Over to you, Radhika.
Yes, Uma. Classical music gives a soul to the universe, and dance gives wings to the mind and body, flight to imagination, and life to everything. Thank you, both of you, for taking us through this wonderful journey. Moving on, I'll take some questions jostling for attention in our chat box. So the first question is from Jyoti Reddy, and this is for Radhe.
Can we have a look at Jyoti Reddy?
I know you are a lover of handlooms. Not everybody gets this rich exposure to arts and crafts. Our regular education system does not provide for this. How do you think we could encourage a favorable shift in this direction?
Is this the same Jyoti Reddy that runs Irina?
Yes. You can see her now.
Okay. We were just discussing, anyway, we were just talking about your sarees before this conversation started. I have many of your sarees, and I think also one of our costumes is from your sarees. Leela Sampson had used it for Nadia production. All our sarees were Eli silk, and yeah, she was in touch with you about that. I think the first place to start actually is school uniforms. For whatever reason, we put our children in the most horrible polyester clothing in their growing years, and fabric has a huge effect on how your system functions. And somehow school uniforms are always, I'm not even talking about aesthetics. I'm not talking about whether the colors are nice or ugly or pretty, or I'm not even going there. I'm just saying the quality of fabric itself is so bad for a growing child. So I think that's the first place to start, is with school uniforms. We have hardy cottons. We have, this is a relatively thick cotton what I'm wearing today, and it is possible to make these fabrics last a long time if it's dyed in the right way and woven in the right way. And somehow we are not investing in that. I don't know. I didn't go to a school with uniforms. I don't really know what the economics of school uniforms are, but I think that's the first place to start. And if children get used to wearing cottons, and especially we live in India, it's hot like 80% of the time. What are we doing in these horrible polyester mixed clothing? Because it just makes you sweat, it doesn't make you feel good. And I feel like these kind of things that as children, if you're exposed to slightly harder cotton, it may be a little bit rough, that lasts a long time, so that you fall and you graze your knee, the fabric doesn't rip, then I think you have a natural tendency to wear more and more cotton. So I went to a school where we didn't have uniforms, and so all my clothes were cotton salwar kameez. I can't imagine wearing polyester. Even I went through a little phase where you'd buy tops from H&M, or and they're all polyester, and they don't last. Everyone talks about how cottons don't last and silks don't last, but actually these fast fashion clothings are the ones that don't last. They're the ones that don't look good very soon after you buy them. And no matter how much your ajrak or your pochampalli fades, the fact that it becomes softer, the fact that the colors are more muted, it actually just adds to the beauty. And if we can expose our children to the value of wearing cotton fabrics or silks or just natural fabrics at a young age, I think we could very easily make them more conscious of what they put on their body, which will of course influence the handloom industry. And it doesn't even have to be handloom, it can be powerloom, as long as it's a natural fabric. What's the problem? So I think we have to start with school uniforms. I don't really see a way around it.
Thank you, Radhe. Our next question is from Mahati, and this is for Sandeep. How much of innovation do you bring on stage during your concerts?
I don't know if I can quantify it, but I think I'm always trying to do something different and push those boundaries. So I think that something in my style that I've gotten from my gurus is that you set your own sort of boundaries that you're comfortable with. And within that, you do as much as you can. And kind of having those boundaries also forces you to do new things, because if you have no rules and no boundaries, then you're going in 100 different directions. But once you set a couple of, okay, I don't want to do that, or I want to do this, you put some restrictions, and within that, you've got to figure out how many different and new innovative things you can do. So that's how I approach my concerts. Now, having said that, my boundaries change a lot. And so I think that's also part of the process of growth, is that my boundaries that I would approach a concert even 2-3 years ago is totally different today. And I think, like I said, I've opened up a lot, not just to just sing pure Carnatic music in the last couple of years. I've been trying a lot of different things with other friends, musicians, so different bands and collaborations. And I remember 2 years ago when I sang for Mahashivratri celebrations here in the ashram, was when I sang with like a full band, the full Sounds of Isha band, and violinist had come, and we tried a lot of different things. And after that program went well, and some of the videos went viral, and I had Carnatic musicians messaging me. One, they were really happy to see that I was trying something. So I was a little bit worried about how is this going to be received. But mostly it was all positive feedback, and they really enjoyed it. I even had artists who accompanied me saying things like, how come you didn't do some of these things in like a concert when I'm accompanying you? I want to play for you when you're singing, some rapid fire swarams or something like in that style. I said, I don't know. When I'm on a concert, it's very much based on the audience in front of me, and I look and I kind of change what I'm doing and how I'm singing and how I approach it in real time. So I said, I don't know. I've just never thought about it like that, but now that you're saying it, we'll do it somewhere. And so there's things like this happen, and then one day I feel comfortable to bring that into a concert stage with, in a very traditional sabha or a temple atmosphere, where a couple of years ago, I might not have done that. So I'm not conscious that, okay, today I need to do something different, or I need to do this or that. I kind of go in with a very, very vague idea that just try something, let's just see what happens, and don't be closed off. So if an idea comes on stage, don't automatically say no to it. Just kind of at least give it a second thought about, maybe I can incorporate this today. And there have been times I've done things and people have definitely questioned me the next day. I've gotten phone calls I've gotten phone calls from artists who accompanied me the next day who asked me, what is that thing you did in the middle of the song? And I said, oh, I was just trying something and some idea came, and they're like, don't do that. And I'm like, why? Like, no, it's not nice. It's not nice. Don't do it again. So like, okay, fine. Maybe I won't do it, or maybe I won't do it when they're with me on stage the next time. So there's a lot of things you try, and not all of them are a hit, but only if you try these things, you kind of know also what works. But at the end of the day, it's my comfort level. And that is unique to me. So what somebody else does doesn't mean that I want to do it. What I do doesn't mean it's right for somebody else. It's always very, very unique to me. And I was very hardline till a few years ago that this is how it has to be done. This is right. This is wrong. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. Then I think that my walls also, I started to break it down and you know, kind of just become more open to these ideas. I think musically also, I started to enjoy a lot of things more. So it wasn't just the fact that I thought I need to do this or I should do this. I enjoyed it, and I found that enjoyment. And I also found at the end of the day that I stopped caring what other people said, if they liked it or not. And I also just started looking at whether I enjoyed it, whether I thought it was interesting musically. Did I think I'm being innovative? Did I think I'm doing something progressive? Am I doing something that's making like an actual change, or is it just change for the sake of change? I started to analyze those things more and make decisions based on that. So long story short, I don't ever go into a concert with, I'm going to do this different today, or that, I'm going to do this or that, whatever. But I'm more open. And so innovation and change has been happening a lot more in my music the last couple of years as a result of that.
Thank you so much. We love your innovative approach in this classical music. Now, the next question is from Mahati to Radhe. You have grown amidst aesthetics from an early age. How have you inculcated aesthetics in your daily life?
You should come and see our flat where we live. I told you she got aesthetics. I know where she got it from.
You're mean. No, I traveled a lot, obviously growing up, and so we lived in many different people's homes. And so I think I had exposure to different types of aesthetics. Some people were very, some people's homes were very expensive, and everything looked very shiny and nice, but you didn't really feel like it was a home. It was almost like being in a museum. And then some people really didn't have anything, but they would just hang a sari or something as the wall hanging, and it would have so much warmth. It would maybe be their mothers or grandmothers, and not very expensive, but they had some emotional connection, and it would be very warm. And of course the opposite, where some people maybe they didn't have the right aesthetics, or they liked different things like shiny things, or whatever it is. And the quality of it, like the idea may be good, but the quality was not that good. So there'd be lots of little things that don't all work together. And the opposite, where people were very wealthy and had great aesthetics, and so they did their whole house up, and it had it felt like a designer designed it, but every time you walked into the space, it felt a certain way. So really exposure to different types of aesthetics. That was a huge part of it. But more importantly, it's really about attention to detail. And it's about what makes you feel comfortable. In the ashram, when we first came and there were absolutely no buildings and they built the first building, my father would literally design what the latch has to look like on each door. Like the bathroom door latch had to be a certain way. Otherwise, we couldn't go ahead with the plan. And I think that's what is more important for me, is that even if the whole house is empty and I only have one single piece that is on a table or on a wall, it's important to me that it's beautiful, that it makes me feel at home, and I'm okay. And actually, we've lived in our house for about 3 or 4 years now, and we had blank walls for a long time, and we still have a few blank walls because I'm just very particular, and I don't mind if the space is empty as long as it feels comfortable. So for me, my aesthetic is really just a question of comfort. I'm glad that other people also think I have good aesthetics, but for me, it's just about comfort and about fighting Sandeep on many things.
Compromising.
Fighting. Sandeep likes all glass, metal, everything has to be, like this. Nothing should be outside, everything should be inside the cupboard. If you walk in, it should look like a hospital. These are
a hotel.
It's okay.
I love this modern hotel look, and that's how I wanted to live. And then she was like, that's not a home. You don't live in a hotel. And so I was like, but I want to. I wish I did. It's so nice. So then I kind of broke down a little bit and became more of a home atmosphere after we got married.
But it has happened the other way also, though, I have to say. I think there were particularly 2 or 3 people that I grew up around, and their homes were filled with lots of little things that came together, and it would make this beautiful piece together. But it would be a lot. It would be quite crowded almost. But I never thought it was crowded. I just thought it was so beautiful. But after we've been married for a few years now, and I'm trying to put a home together as 2 completely individual people with very different ideas, I've imbibed a lot of that slightly cleaner lines and a little bit less is more kind of aesthetic. I've definitely drawn more from him than what I was before we got married.
And finally, if there was place for my Xbox, I was happy. That's all.
First of all, it's my Xbox. Okay.
Thank you. Now we have a question from Arshia, and this is for Sandeep. Gopala Gokula music video has now registered 217,000 views. Do share some of the most interesting feedback you have received for this.
Feedback I've gotten, there is a very close friend who is a musician. And I think around the time that the video came out, they had a baby. Same time, yeah. And I remember at first he told me a couple of times, oh, my daughter loves that song. And so we played, and she sleeps and she kind of behaves herself. And if she's crying, she calms down. So that was like when she was a baby, a newborn baby, it had that effect. And as she got a little older, I mean, within the first year or 2, he kept on telling me like, oh, you don't know, like this song, she's obsessed with it. If I play something else, she wants that. And so I play that and immediately she stops crying. And so he kept telling me this, but it was really funny because I think after her first birthday, we went home to see the baby, and I walked into his house and his parents hugged me. And they're not the type of people to just hug somebody who comes, I don't know them that well, but they hugged me, and his father hugged me and just held my hand and just said, all of us have that song as our ringtone. It's in all of our phones. If the baby starts crying, anybody, whoever is closest, just plays it and she calms down. I owe you so much. I was like so shocked. And I was telling my friend, the baby's father, and he said, you would have no idea. If you go to my in-laws place, and they're from Kerala, I said, if you go to my in-laws place, I think my father-in-law will do a namaskaram to you right now, the way that this song has worked. So that was one of the best feedback that I ever got, because he said it's not a small thing. It was like, even now he says she's quite obsessed with the song, and she's like 3 years old. I got a lot of feedback like that parents loved it and their kids loved it, which was first time that I had a stronger impact on, I think, like younger kids.
And actually around that time, a lot of our friends started to have kids.
So for them,
so for them, it's become like a standard lullaby now.
They call it the boat song because I'm sitting in a boat in half of the video. That was an interesting project that just came together because I was singing that song in concerts, and I called up the producers at Madrasana and the person who's in charge, and I just said, I want to record this song. I don't know what we want to do with it, but I'd like to record it, and if you want to release it, it's yours. So I recorded it, and then well-known Tamil music director for Tamil films, Sean Roldan, he's part of Madrasana, and he just said, let me do something with this different. He said, can I do something different? It's not going to be violin mridangam. I said, okay, do what you want. And he spent one day on it, and it was so interesting. I got a call at 10 p.m. I hadn't heard it. I got a call at 10 p.m. from the producer, and he said, we just heard the rough copy. I said, I haven't even heard it. Send it to me. And he said, we're so excited. I just thought I was going to do a small release, a monthly release. Now I'm thinking, let's do a proper video. Let's make it a big thing. Like, send it to me. So then I heard it and I was like, whoa, this is really different. And then we worked on it a little bit and we shot that video. We went out at 4 a.m. Down ECR, Chennai outskirts, and shot these videos in really nice locations. And it went really well. So I owe a lot to the people over at Madrasana for helping to put that together. I just called him up one day and said, I like this song, I want to record it, what do you want to do with it? And they just had all these ideas. So I'm glad it's been really well received. It's probably my first music video that sort of went viral like this. I got a lot of good feedback from a lot of people that hadn't heard Carnatic music before, didn't even know me. Because of that, they started to listen. So I was happy about that too.
Thank you so much, Sandeep and Radhe, for addressing all our questions. Now, I'd like to announce virtual felicitation of our esteemed guest speakers. Presentation of Bidri Mementos to Radhe Jaggi. IT team, can you please play the video? Presentation of Bidri Mementos to Radhe Jaggi and Sandeep Narayan by Chairperson Uma Chigrupati. Bidri Craft is one of our initiatives for the year. Also presenting a beautiful sari from Arena, our gifting partner, to Radhe Jaggi.
Thank you.
Now, I would request Senior Vice Chairperson Shubhra Maheshwari to deliver her vote of thanks.
In the words of Sri Sadguru himself, in the Indian culture, the gods sing and dance. A god without melody or movement would be too mundane and misaligned with the rest of the creation. On this note, I, Shubhra Maheshwari, on behalf of Feki Ladies Organization Hyderabad, take this opportunity to thank Ms. Radhe Jaggi and Mr. Sandeep Narayan for today's super interesting conversation. Using the body as a medium of communication, the expression of dance is perhaps the most integrate and developed yet easily understood art form, and music is an intrinsic part of any dance form. India's diverse culture is bound together in one form of common identification, and that is music and dance. Thank you so much, dear speakers. And as you rightly said, we are looking forward to seeing the two of you together. I also extend my gratitude to our sponsors, Platinum sponsors Greenco, branding partner RBC, event partner and gifting partner Arena, gold sponsor Granules India. Thank you, IT team, for the seamless flow of the session. Thank you, our past chairs and our flow members, for always encouraging us by your presence. Thank you, Team 2122, for your unstinted support. Mask up, stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you, Shubhra Maheshwari. On behalf of Chairperson Uma Chigrupati and her committee, I thank you all for being here. It's your support that keeps us going. The biggest thing that classical dance and music does to you is help attain balance between your mind and your soul. Harmony in your mind and soul is the key to ultimate wellness and happiness. On this note, I would like to end the session wishing you all a happy, healthy, and safe weekend. Namaste.